I am fabulous. How are you, darling?
Doing amazing, trying to get everything blasted and socialed. I think we've been moving since like 6 this morning, didn't we?
My gosh, I've been moving for the last several weeks that like nonstop because what we're about to talk about today has literally like lined up everything else in my world of profession.
Uh-huh.
And I've just been like, it's kind of like when the squirrel gathers all of its nuts, before winter and buries them all. It's kind of like that. It's like I had all these nuts buried and I'm unburying
Mhm.
them, and then I was doing stuff with it, and I had to get it into a timeline before today.
Yeah. And that was a quick replay and refocus because, we start, it doesn't like they went and said, oh, in 9 months, we're going to do X, Y, Z. And why don't you just start prepping now? No, that's not how a launch of a new product is.
No.
Lightning hits and we take it on.
Yep.
So tell our audience about yourself, darling, because this is the first time you've been to the coffee shop.
I know. And I love your little coffee shop. And I do have to say that I am from Texas. So we're all about,
Uh-huh.
tea, but my husband is very much so into coffee. And so I just partake in the coffee enthusiasm,
Uh-huh.
knowing that it's probably really good. And I just haven't done coffee because I'll tell my husband, like, well, if I start drinking it and I really like it, then I become one of those coffee people that I always have to have my coffee in the morning. And so no, I'll just
Well,
let
that's
you do the
fine. We do
coffee.
tea too.
Huh?
We actually have a show called Coffee and Tea, and it's where two psychics compare competing views.
Oh, well
That's
then,
on Thursday nights, honey.
well, here in Texas, Whataburger is a really big deal.
Uh-huh.
And this has my tea.
Mm.
So,
Very cool. Very
but or it's usually Chick-fil-A. But for whatever reason, I had to go to Whataburger this morning.
uh-huh.
So I'll be sipping on my Whataburger tea while you do your coffee.
That works. That works just fine. So tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm Shelby Carino, and I am an advisor on Keen under Texas Medium Shelby. And basically, the long and the short of it is, I mean, are we telling them really what happened today, or am I
Yeah,
just talking
we're
about
telling
myself?
them what is happening.
Huh?
We're telling them everything today.
Okay. So, well, let me back up a little bit
Okay.
in my little profile bio of self.
Yeah.
Um, I go back up on the timeline. You know how psychics work? We go from the future backwards to get to the
Yeah.
beginning. Okay, so basically, I'm a teacher by trade. So teaching is my whole thing, and I was a school teacher for 11 years. I taught seventh grade for 2 years, high school for 3 years of 10th, 11th, and 12th. Then I went to fifth grade for several years, third grade. I was all over the place teaching. And then I just knew there was something else I needed to be doing. I was married at the time to my first husband. I've only had two. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so kept the second one. But basically, I was teaching back in the day. I was married. My husband at the time was like, oh, Shelby, go find your passion. What do you want to do? And I had left the teaching world, went into personal fitness training. And then we ended up going through a divorce. This is when I was 30.
Mm-hmm.
And well, that was when my whole world of spiritual awakening happened. That big life shift to find your purpose. So went through a divorce, left teaching, got into the wellness industry, did a lot of network marketing back in the day. But in the process of all that, I was really awakening this spiritual side to myself. And I wanted to know, because I'm all about relationships. So I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to know, well, what's wrong with me that I keep attracting the same type of guy in my life? And the only thing that kept changing was the wolf in sheep's clothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, well, okay, when I was 16 and I had this boyfriend, my best friend handed him to me because she didn't want him anymore. So that was my
Mm-hmm.
first, relationship experience, was somebody's leftovers.
Right.
Well, his dad was an alcoholic, right? And he didn't have a mom in the picture. So I literally started with like just broken men.
Right.
Then it moved into after college, I got another boyfriend, and he looked the part. He looked like he was a GQ model. He was like, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't do any of that. And then he ended up being a hardcore drug addict. And so an abusive, almost killed me. Went through that whole experience. And then I was like, what is wrong with me? Because I did not have that kind of life growing up. Like,
Right.
I mean, I had my parents were still married, still are, suburban neighborhood, played soccer, did karate my whole life. Like, when you look at it on paper, I
Right.
didn't look like I had,
You shouldn't be
between
having these issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then I just kind of elevated, and then I met the guy that I married, and he was in radio, which is very interesting. And so met him, we got married, moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and then I got a very big whirlwind experience being with the entertainment industry. And not just music, but also TV, because I was in a TV commercial of nonstop comedy block and whatever. So I got this whole media energy around me.
Right.
And then divorced. I'm like, what is wrong with me?
Again,
what am I attracting? And at this point, I'm 30. Well, I have wisdom now, but back in the day, I realized I was undergoing a spiritual awakening. And so my energy was already taking off. And I was already a receiver, because when I met my ex-husband, I had come down with mono. Well, what I realized was I really received all his energy in, and it blew my system out.
Right.
So then I began going on this journey. And so I went into breath work, sound healing, like all of these different modalities in the metaphysical world showed up, because I was like, I am not going to date anybody or do anything until I fix my freaking self, because I don't know what's wrong with this, that I keep attracting that, but I don't want that anymore. And so that's when I was on this spiritual awakening path. So fast forward through the years, go through all this, healing. And well, then I met a psychic. Doesn't everything always happen when we meet a psychic?
Yeah, most likely.
So I'm like tootling along in my life. I left Atlanta, Georgia, had to move back in with my parents at the time. I go through that whole generational shattering of like, I got to heal my family. I got to heal myself. What's wrong with me? Spotlight, kind of thing. And, well, I really thought I had it together at this point. I had developed a website. I had my company business name. I had everything. I was like, I know exactly what I'm going to do. So I had a friend that is a water shaman. And he was like, Shelby, I'm going to be at this wellness expo, and you should come and you should interview my clients after they have an experience with my water service.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's great. Yeah, I'll do that. Well, so I went. I had no money. I was that fake it till you make it.
Right.
So I had $20 in my wallet, cash to eat. I was negative in my bank account. Where I had to drive from where my parents lived to the expo, I had enough gas to get there and back. No joke. And I had no resources but what I had on me.
Right.
And in my car. And so, and I thought this was my first launch, my fresh start.
Right.
So this expo was inside and outside. And I was outside at the time. And this psychic gentleman in his 60s walked up to me, and he's looking at me, and, we're kind of in a group, and he's like, come on, you need to have a reading. Now, anyone in the psychic community If you've ever had, right? Am I right?
Yes.
If you've ever met a psychic or you have, someone that can see into you, and I'm like, no, I don't need a reading. And it was because I didn't have the money.
Right.
And he was like, no, come on, you need to have a reading. And I was like, listen, I was trying to be nice. I was like, listen, I would love to have a reading, but I can't have a reading today. And he just kept poking. Right. And he was doing it in front of everybody else.
Right.
Well, I was embarrassed, right? Because I was like, I can't say that I don't have money. That's embarrassing. Isn't that what happens in the metaphysical world with us people?
Exactly.
We will give everything we have to everybody else, and then we're over here like trying to climb and survive, right? Because we give it all away, right?
Right.
So I was like, so finally I just looked at him and I got angry, and it takes a lot to get me angry. And he was just poking, and finally I said, listen, I would love to have a reading with you. And this is exactly how I said it. I would love to have a reading with you, but I can't. I have no money. I am negative in my bank account. I have $20 in my wallet, and I have enough gas to get back to my parents' house because I went through a divorce and I'm broke. And that's exactly how I said it in front of all of these people. There's like 8 people standing around me listening to the conversation. He grabs my arm and he goes, okay, let's go. You're having a reading.
Right.
And he takes me all the way back into the convention center. His table was all the way back in the back. I think I walked a football field to get there. I sit down and I look at him and I said, I have no money to pay you. And he said, I don't care. I don't want your money. I'm going to give you a reading. Within seconds, I was crying. And he said, you're mad at your mother, and you need to do forgiveness on her. And I was like, I am not mad at my mom. And he goes, because, psychics, so logic, I was like, I'm not mad at my mom. I just talked to her. We're getting along great, And he's like, no, you're mad at your mother.
Yeah.
And so an hour later, after this entire reading, I ended up getting put on a 48-day forgiveness journey. I mean, my soul exploded. And I journaled my entire experience, which is what my soul freedom books are about, because that was my awakening. And then it didn't turn out good between me and the psychic afterwards. And that ending is in my soul freedom companion. It even involved law enforcement. But
that happened.
Yeah. And so, but it was a really profound experience. And I got 3 books that I produced from that, because I was like, again, I couldn't pick the right man that kept financially abusing me and, physically abusing me and everything else. And then I meet this 60-something-year-old psychic guy that I trusted because he had this authority. And then by the end of it, I was still getting taken advantage of and abused, but I was just getting it done in a different world.
Right.
So I was like, oh my God.
Right.
What's wrong with me?
Nothing.
Right.
You're growing.
I'm growing. But I didn't have anybody to tell me that.
Well, honey, I've been around for centuries or two, but no, psychics go through the most shit. Okay, we do. Believe me, relationship-wise, you can't understand a cheater unless you've been cheated.
Yep.
You can't understand an abusive husband unless you've dealt with one. You can't understand a husband that has a mental problem unless you're dealing with one. You can't understand an ego husband unless you've dealt with one.
God, that is so true. Nailed it. And that's the thing, is what created our divorce back in the day was he was cheating with the intern on his radio show, and it went live over the air in Atlanta, Georgia, and the program director called him out on it.
Oh, goodness.
And then he came home that night and played it for me. and acted as if like it was a lie. And I was so naive that I started talking to attorneys because he wanted to sue the station for defamation of character and slander. And when I was actually making progress in the legal realm, he stopped me and they fired him. And I was like, what in the world? So anyway, so I continue with this psychic. I got 3 books. Like my Soul Freedom companion books are my real-time 48-day forgiveness journey. Like I wrote every single night what was happening to me because so much energy was changing.
Right.
And at the time I was blogging, back in the day when blogs were big.
Right.
And I literally had people saying, Shelby, you need to take down these posts because you look really crazy and you look like you should be in a psychiatric ward.
Duh. It's called growth.
Right?
Have you seen a rose produce itself? It ain't pretty.
Exactly. And what's funny is that my parents lived out in the country. And so they were just getting a tower in for internet.
Okay.
They were readjusting the internet in the area. So when someone said that, the whole internet went down, so I couldn't post anyway.
Okay.
So it was almost like a protection. And then I just went, okay, I'm not going to post, but I'm still going to keep writing.
Right.
So I got to a place where, and the whole story's in my book, but I have my journals, and then I created my book, The Art of I actually have the books right here.
Awesome. Links are in the description, by the way.
Oh, good. Yeah. So this is my, so this is Soul Freedom. And then Soul Freedom Companion. So these are my real time, like my life just exploded like diarrhea in my world spirit realm. If you like drama, this is better than the Real Housewives. Okay.
And because it's psychic drama, we have not only this realm, but the other realms.
Yes.
Okay. Going on, and the other thoughts and ideas, and all the I've heard that before, and I know exactly what your next words are going to be.
Right. But it's true. It's like and if you don't live in that world where you're aware of that world, then you don't really understand it. Which is why we're having such a big awakening on the planet now, because everyone's starting to experience this.
Yes.
And it's people like us that have to educate, which is going to get us to the end of the broadcast at some point when we tell everybody the exciting news.
Yes. Once they get to know us, because I'm sure we've got viewers from both sides of the spectrum that hasn't seen either one of us.
Right.
And then we've got viewers that have seen us. But no, the psychic awakenings, the psychic problems, the psychic growth in both the industry and the world has been mounting up since probably 2015. Everyone was all prepped and ready. We're going to get off this damn ship in 2012. Well, guys, I don't know. Maybe Haley Bob said, nah, I ain't stopping picking you up. We don't know. Point being is the rapture did not happen, and now we're going through some times.
Preach, brother, preach.
Okay. But on the other side of that, we've got growth. We're so connected today.
Yes.
And this is not, I'm not just saying, oh, the psychics are so connected. No, I'm talking about this. We are connected in 40 different ways. This morning, we were working on interlinking and connecting and, building up the little, posse of world famous top line psychics, that do not round, people think, oh, well, you must follow all the top psychics. No, we don't. We get into our own little bubble and do our own little thing.
Yep.
Yep.
That's exactly what we do, because somewhere innately we understand the energy.
Yeah.
So can we trust that one? Do we trust that one? Because a psychic really runs that pattern of know-it-all, right? Because we're connected.
And not only that, but do I want to take that into my world?
Exactly. Like, do I trust your know-it-all of what you filter?
Yeah.
Or am I going to stick with mine and trust what I filter? Right? Because we learn about psychic attacks.
Well, not only that, but I have something called that I look at it as more so my space is valuable.
Yep.
And that includes my social media space.
Yes.
because that's got such a high imprint. You're seeing, you're flipping, and even if you're not on it, you still have to see it, flip it, do it, whatever. Especially in this business, there's no way of getting away from social media
Yep.
today. So you either have to hire someone to do it or you have to do it yourself. So the people I follow and interact with, I'm very like, I don't want to see that. I don't want to acknowledge that. I don't want to hear how terrible that is. Give me a cup of coffee. Show me, my Patreons. You'll learn about them. I have a little Patreon group that actually supports the network. They share like daily coffee memes because it brightens my day up.
Okay.
Yeah. But, it's the positive, I don't want that negativity seeping in and even hitting that subconscious brainwave.
I love the male version of how
Okay.
you're saying this.
Okay.
It makes my whole spirit happy to
Uh-huh.
have the male side explain it, because the female speaks different when
Uh-huh.
we're explaining, and then the male comes in and it's like, yes, that's the logical part. You said it exactly the way I was trying to say it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but that's it, because
Right.
you don't want to take in that vibration. Like, I mean, I can't tell you how many times when all the censorship was going on
Mhm.
social media,
Right.
and I was feeling all this negativity on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and, just and Twitter. I mean,
Mhm.
I was just like, I can't be a part of this. Like, I don't even want to be in that space. I
Mhm.
think I shut down my social media platforms 3 different times, where I
Mhm.
just came off the platforms altogether, like deleted my accounts, came off, and people were like, "Oh my God, Shelby, you've had these people follow you." And I'm like, yeah, but I can't, like, this is too much. Like, I'm
Right.
like y'all need to come off. Like, I mean, we all
Right.
need to do a reset. And so I had to even maneuver myself through that process.
Right.
And then now, because more things have changed on the planet, then there's more of that safety mechanism energetically to get back onto the platforms. And but then the people have also changed too.
Well, they
So
have,
now,
but
mhm,
at the same time, the reason I stay on them is someone's got to be a damn lighthouse.
yep, yep,
Okay. And and I may not be interacting, or I may interact very limitedly in that direct communication. I may not even look at it. I have a lovely program, and I'll tell you about it later when
yeah,
I'm not on air. I can go in there, load up a month worth of everything I need, and I can walk away.
that's true.
Yeah.
Well, and in my process, I've been going through so much personal
Mm-hmm.
transformation
Uh-huh.
that that's how I did my reset. Oh, so that brings me to my Art of Process book.
Uh-huh.
So when the psychic said I was mad at my mother
Uh-huh.
and I had to do forgiveness work, well, I did it. And then once I did it, I was like, well, I've got to write about what the process is, because the teacher in me was
Mm-hmm.
like, I got to share it.
Right.
Right? Because that's what you do. Like,
Right.
especially when you're in the metaphysical world, when
Yeah.
you learn something, you want to share it. We're big sharers, right?
Right.
So I'm like, and I had never written a book before. Okay. I'd never
Mm-hmm.
done any self-publish. I did not know. I mean, I taught reading in English, but it's not like I'm like, this is
Mm-hmm.
my strong suit. But
Right.
I wrote some pretty damn good books.
You have, and they're on Kindle, um,
Amazon.
Amazon, paperback or Kindle. And I'm going to recommend Kindle. I used to recommend paperback for anything, but I'm going to say Kindleless, guys. And
Yeah,
here's why: we save the planet, and you can carry it anywhere you want to.
that's true.
Because I'm sure these are workbooks.
Well, you know what I did? I had a client where she bought one of my books, right? Because I talk about the
Mhm.
twin flame energy, right?
Right.
Well, this was my twin flame love book of the
Hmm.
right energy, wrong body.
Right.
So I had a client, I said, you just need to buy this book. I don't care if you read it. I
Hmm.
don't care. Once you buy it, you get the energies of it anyway.
Right.
Well, she was going through the process, and at one point she had a private session with me, and I told her, I said, okay, I know where you're at now. I want you
Hmm.
to take this book and I want you to burn it. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I said, rip up the pages, shred it, but really honestly, if you could like put it in a chimenea, burn it.
Uh-huh.
And she's like, why? And I said, because it's the easiest way after you've done all this forgiveness to release the energy of what you're trying, because you're trying to get to the right person yourself,
Hmm.
right? And she goes, I feel so bad because I bought your book. And I said, it served its purpose. Just listen to me.
Yeah.
And so she did. I said, and she goes, but it's your book. And I said, it's human. It's a human thing. I don't care. Rip it up, shred it up, whatever you got to do, freaking burn it. Well, guess what? She did it. And now all of a sudden her person came in. I'm like, because out here we play with things.
Exactly.
This was something, I'm not attached to what you do to this. I just want you to get the energy from it. So it was really, really funny when she did that. But so then once I cleared all this to get to our launch here, I realized that energy is the new brain. Because once I went through my forgiveness work with the whole psychic and all that, and all that stuff happened, then I moved into this space of like really understanding energy, which took me beyond psychic. Right. And so that's why I wrote this book. And this was actually an interview that I did when I was a part of a teaching summit. And that interview of me explaining energy is in this book in interview format. So it's really easy to read. But my point to all of that in my journey that's led me to this moment in time is I met my mentor who has been training NLP people in NLP, which is the neuro linguistics programming, which is really the left side of the brain. And she's a big kahuna in Hawaii. So she teaches the Hawaiian system of Huna. Well, in October of 2011, when all of this stuff happened and I was like done and published, then I had an activation in my lucid dream where my Kundalini energy flipped all at once.
Oh, fun.
Right? And I meet my psychic. I meet my mentor. And you want to know how I got to my mentor? Quick story. So on this path of relationships, this is why I say that I am the world's #1 relationship expert. Okay, it's to myself of what I've done. But so how did I get to my mentor? Well, when you have a pattern and you keep repeating the pattern, you hopefully are just elevating to the next level in your pattern better. Well, I embraced the fact that all my spiritual communication channels opened. I embraced the fact that my psychic ability like went through the roof. I was already psychic, but I wasn't really aware of what I was.
Right.
And I had the mediumship come in. I had the hands-on healing. I lost control of my body for 3 hours. I got all the downloads of all the disabilities and all kind, I did all that, right?
Right.
Well, I moved through that and I get through all of this stuff. And then I go to a wellness expo. Here we are again at Dick's Sporting Goods in the parking lot. No less. I had a tent set up. The woman across from me selling snow cones comes over to me and she says, can you do a reading with my son when he gets here? Because I feel like he's about to go to jail for carrying a firearm and marijuana. And I just really feel like he needs some direction. I'll pay you and just don't tell him that I want it to be natural. Right.
Right.
So he sits down, he comes in, sits down, I read for him, whatever. Well, I felt like I needed to gift him my books because I knew like, oh God, he's about to go through, like I saw him going, he was going to get, go to jail.
Right.
And long story short, a couple months later, his mom reaches out to me and says, he wasn't allowed to take your books in. He's got to get it directly from the publisher. Can you send them to him? He wants to read them. So I said, sure. So I sent him the books. Well, then he starts, here we go, jail romance. He starts sending me letters, right, in the mail. Well, then I'm already activated. So my whole heart chakra is like, oh my God, he's such a good heart. He's such a good person. I love his family. I love his mom. I love this and that. So I'm literally like for 8-9 months having this like experience with him while he's locked up. Right. And he's like, nothing was labeled. It was just me like feeling this, right? Not on his side, but my side.
Right.
Well, he wanted me to come in for a spiritual visit. And I had to talk to the priest at the jail. And so I called him up. I talked to this Father Casey person for an hour. I never said the word psychic. I never said I never said anything like that. And he just said, Shelby, I know exactly who you are. And I want you to promise me that when we hang up, you Google this woman's name that's in Dallas and you take every course she has. And he installed that in me 3 times before we hung up the phone. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. I hung up the phone. I Googled her. I found her. I called her. She called me back within minutes. I was on the phone with her for almost an hour and a half. I was bawling because I felt like someone knew what had happened to me and could explain it, and it was like receiving it back. So Shelby, don't even worry about money right now. We'll work it out. You just come have a session with me. I go to her house. I have a session, and she's little. She's like 4'8". I call her Yoda. And she looks at me and she goes, how would you like me to teach you everything I know? And I was like, oh my God, I love that. And she goes, okay, let's begin. And like that's when I really, like, everything got tested.
Right.
But what I realized when my Kundalini flipped, my right brain, that psychic part of myself, really expanded.
Right.
So I was out here not being able to ground or land or make anything happen because I was just she called me an airhead. I was just, So when I went through NLP, I got the left brain in to balance my brain. Well, as that was going on, then my husband has known her since he was 16. And he was in the classes with me, but he had a girlfriend. And well, during one of the practitioner weekends, the girlfriend didn't make it, and his and mine energies took off. So that's what created that twin energy match label.
Right.
And we started this really deep soul work together that my mentor actually guided. So it blew jail guy out of the way. It blew the girlfriend out of the way. And then we went into that deeper healing and went through another set of fire,
Right.
And I'm like, does this shit ever end?
No.
Like, it was so much in the soul and continues to be, but we've gotten so much, like, balance because it was really about coming back to ourselves.
Right.
And so I've been through this process, and then that's where eventually, like, I was on another platform called Aeson that we mentioned right before we got on air, but I found Keen, and I was like, okay, so I've had all of this. Well, then I did a spiritual business boot camp. I grew a tribe. I created courses. I ran all my tribe through the courses. They've been tested, processed, proven. Took my tribe on a Huna trip through a cruise setting, really did the Hawaiian way and theme and learned all of those higher frequencies, whatnot. And then now here I am today where all of these parts of my puzzle, because remember, when you expand, you have all these pieces of you out here.
Right.
So I've been grabbing all these parts of myself, transforming it through my spiritual business, and then putting my parts back together.
Right.
That has created my company name is the Queen of Total Wellness, that I actually did back in 2006.
Cool.
Okay. When I was doing all the network marketing, but I've kept my business name.
Right.
I just didn't know that the Queen of Total Wellness was going to be my own queen, my own metaphysical self.
Right.
And because I'm a teacher and I began a tribe back in 2018, they all wanted to know my process. How did you make it? How did you go through this transformation? And I thought to myself, oh my God, I don't know. And I'm like, let me get back to you on that. And
about what it is.
All right, I'll follow your lead.
All right. Screen. Here we go, guys.
Woo!
It is live.
And that came up quick.
Yeah, it came up quick. They've been busting our butt. We want to thank our Ingenio parent company.
Yes.
Yes. They have been kick-ass. Our support team has been amazing. They have dealt with us. especially during a Mars retrograde when psychics are ready to just beat people up.
Not only the Mars retrograde, but then we had the portal.
Uh-huh.
Okay, like what we had the eclipse on the 8th,
Uh-huh.
the full blood red moon, whatever that thing was. And then we had the 1111 portal. Oh my God, this is the time when stuff like this happens to sensitives like ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're like, ding, 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 ding. Yeah,
Yep.
it's a lot.
All right. So I'm going to take you through and you can talk us through this. So what is modern spirituals? Is it another psychic network? No, it isn't. It's a collective between the brands.
Look, there I am.
Yeah, there you are.
There's Miguel. There's Hope.
Uh-huh. You can talk directly to your instructor for a one-on-one session. But even cooler, you can go and take the classes. The classes you guys see us talk about, maybe you've wanted to get into. You can go and preview the course. You can look at it like the spiritual ethics course. It's 15 lectures. It's 4 hours long. It's an advanced course, so maybe you're not ready for the advanced course. And you've got coursework to do, and you literally talk and build with your instructor. You can email us for free. You've got assignments. What are ethics bending? Are you ready? The foundational laws. I mean, you can pre-see everything. It is video courses. Get FAQs. You got a question, you go in here. If you don't get it, guess what? You just go back over and message Shelby, and she is right there on it. So let's go back to your main page here. Yay, we're being called teachers. That was a big discussion. Instructors, teachers, facilitators. Let's talk about your spiritual ethics course. What's it about?
Well, the spiritual ethics course came about because I've learned in the spiritual world that there's rules, there's laws. When we walk in that hakala of ourselves, that prayer walk, because let me just put to the audience this way is we're all spiritual, we're all connected somewhere, right?
Right.
And our spiritual communication channels of what we label psychic or mediumship or intuitive, empathic, whatever these labels are out here, it's really just us advancing to a higher level of connection in our own consciousness, right? And we feel energy differently.
Right.
Well, the more advanced we grow our energy body, then we bring in more, right? We bring in things to us. Well, until we really understand what we're bringing and what filter is being filtered through our personal world determines how that spiritual energy affects us, right?
Right.
So when I've noticed with my clients and with myself, when I was getting more sensitive and my clients were getting more sensitive, then things were happening and it was a pattern that really had to do with spiritual law.
Right.
So I put a course together on spiritual ethics because the more you raise your vibration and consciousness, the more power you actually have because you're more connected. And determining upon what those ethics are determines how you use that. And so my spiritual ethics course goes through the process of these are what the ethics are when you wake up. These are the laws in spirit. And you want to make sure you follow that because other people out here are getting the ethics. And if your ethics are underneath what somebody else's ethics are, you get a bigger kickback on that. And so, and people don't understand that when they get these abilities that they're actually opening themselves up to create the chaos in their world because it's untethered energy. So once they understand the ethics, it's a lot easier to move through.
Very much so. All right. And what about mediumship?
Mediumship is a funny course. It's a serious course, but the mediumship is me actually displaying what happened when I got lit up. Yep. So it's not a course for people to learn how to channel dead people. It's like, this is what mediumship energy is. This is what it looks like. Here's what you can do to help maneuver through that. And
Uh-huh.
here's what it looked like when I did it.
Awesome.
So this is a course where I tell people, if you like to be judgmental, this is the course for you.
Right.
This is where you can judge me all over the place, and it is perfectly okay.
Right. Okay. And then twin flame energy.
That is my personal story of my twin flame awakening with my husband,
Awesome.
which is fire. Because if I would have had this course when I met him, it would have made so much sense. So this is real time
Uh-huh.
movement.
Right.
That course will change lives.
It will. And it's 12 hours and 13 minutes long, 21 lectures, and it's an advanced level course.
My
Is
twin
there a
flame
test
course
in
is
here? There needs to be a test in here somewhere.
yeah, I know, right? My twin flame course is reality TV. That's the
Yeah.
way I view that course.
All right. Movement course.
That is all about the forgiveness journey, how to build your foundation of energy from the ground up. That's a
Uh-huh.
very serious course in the sense of, if you don't like to move, if you don't want to change, don't take the class, because
Yeah.
this class is going to move you.
Yes.
And you
And
can tell even in my energy how much I just was like, ugh.
now this one's a highly important one, I think. It's the psychic energy course.
Yep. That is basically me going through the information of the psychic piece,
Right.
debunking the myth. This is an important course for people because people have so many different ideas of what psychic is.
Uh-huh.
And this is a foundation to shifting that.
Right. All right. And then we have the um Energy Academy study course.
Alchemy.
Alchemy.
So this is taking the empath to the alchemist
Uh-huh.
and explaining how it works,
Right.
and getting those installs in there.
Okay. And it is a 3 hour and 30-minute course at your own pace. You don't have to stop and back it up. You can just do one thing at a time.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. And you don't limit your time on your courses, do you?
No.
Okay. I don't either. I know that that's an option we have.
I used to, but people go back and watch my courses like over and over and over again because they're energetic installs.
Right. All right. Relationship reset. What your mother never taught you until now.
That's self-explanatory through my personal story.
Exactly. This has been your life that you've cruised through. And it's great, I think, for rebuilding relationships, because they get stale, they get tired, they get changed, people change.
Yeah, the relationship reset is literally how to have a relationship now in these higher frequencies that
Hmm.
is not the traditional method, because
Uh-huh.
we're having to move to the spiritual energy of the relationship that people don't understand. So
Hmm.
this helps build a foundation to that.
And then your featured king course is the fifth dimension.
Yes, and that is baseline foundation of, if you're on a spiritual growth path, if you don't understand what dimension of time we're in and
Hmm.
why these energies are doing what they're doing, then it's really hard to make sense of what's going on in your world. So this is like an introduction to
Hmm.
explaining what that is, what
Right.
symptoms people may have, so on and so forth.
Right. And your courses are up there. They're easy to get to. They're great to do that. Okay, let me flip over. We'll talk about the ones all my
Well, you
courses
forgot
are.
one.
Oh, I
You
did?
got to
I'm
get this
sorry.
energy in. It's the celebrity consciousness.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, so the celebrity consciousness course is really important. I actually talk about my encounter with actual celebrities of energy inside of that, but that
Uh-huh.
is a huge course for people to build and rebuild their own view of what that celebrity status actually is. That's a
Right.
powerful course. Hmm.
It is. I'm sorry, I overlooked it. I didn't see it, darling.
See, you need to take it because you're a
Uh-huh.
celebrity
I know. I
already.
gotta get there. All right. Well, I'm going to take a shortcut. Let me take this down a moment and stop the sharing. There we go. We'll go back. Okay. I'm going to get my courses, but why don't you talk about how easy it is to get in there?
Into the courses.
Uh-huh.
Well, first of all, like you said, I'm, Ingenio, I'm thank you to them and Modern Spiritual and Keen for allowing this to happen. So go to modernspiritual.com and just cruise the site. And of course, I'm Shelby Carino. You can